bro.
I wanted to talk about your Mount Rushmore of rap and album of the year right now. We'll start with that.
Okay. So my Mount Rushmore, I made a video about that.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna lie, it was type ridiculous.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So I made a video about that. The thing about doing a Mount Rushmore of rap is like there's so many different possibilities. There's so many different avenues. Like my Mount Rushmore that day could be different than my Mount Rushmore today. But if there's artists that if I were to do that video again, which I probably will do like a part 2, would probably be like Wayne. I think Wayne would be on there for sure. And you got to take in consideration their discography, their numbers, how big they were commercially, culturally, their influence. Like 99, if not 100% of rappers today, they're all sons of Lil Wayne. They're all sons, like, whether they want to admit it or not. Wayne would be one. Lil B would also be one. I also think Space Ghost Perp would be one. Chief Keef would be one for sure. And I'm not just saying that because Chief Keef's my favorite artist, but I just think because he was, again, in the early 2010s, that's when everything, because back then, before the internet became the internet that we know today, in order for you to get rap was through mainstream lines. But by the time the early 2010s came around and platforms were more accessible to people and the interfaces were better, etc., you really start to see like a schism between mainstream rap and underground rap. And I think the biggest artist for the underground schism was Chief Keef, and I think that's a huge reason why he was so popular.
Underground rappers, did you say?
I'm sorry?
He created the blueprint for underground rappers?
Well, Soulja created the blueprint for underground rappers.
Yes.
Yeah. You know, yeah, would you agree with that?
Yeah, Soulja Boy, Chief Keef as well, definitely.
So it seems like your Mount Rushmore is more based on impact and influence rather than just straight up lyricism. Because like we talked about this the other day, where it's like we have to have so many top fives, like 5 different sets of top fives, because it's too hard to narrow down all the great artists of all time to just 5.
Yeah, 110%. It's just there's just too many different avenues, and there's just too many different pathways that you could take. You know, like, you know, Eminem would be a top 5 in lyricism, but I wouldn't really say Eminem's a top 5 in impact, right? Like for how big and commercially and successful Eminem was, like Black people weren't really listening to Eminem like that. And there's not really people that I know, and there's not really people that I see online that see Eminem as
a big Eminem fan, and I would even say that he created the blueprint for white rappers to succeed either, because, you know,
right.
Impact, I mean, he's low on that list, I would say.
Yeah.
If we're going based on your list, then we can throw with the Chief Keef, Soulja Boy, Wayne. I think you could throw 50 in there too.
That could be argued, yeah. I don't really see anybody considering 50 as a lyricist. I don't really think, now that you said that, I don't really think I've ever even, you know,
not in a lyricist form, but as you said, when it comes to numbers, when it comes to influence, because I think him coming in when he did with no social media back then, he really did change the game. Like that interview when Jay-Z was like 50 Cent is coming, and he was telling, you know, people that if you don't come, like, you're gonna have to take a back seat. He came and then just like took off.
Yeah.
So, because I could say Wayne, definitely. I would throw 50 in there because I think he had as big of an impact as Wayne. I think 50 made it cool to like sing and rap, even though it was really a Ja Rule thing. But he kind of came and, you know what I'm saying?
And they had their whole beef and everything like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, 100%. He was more melodic than he was anything else, you know. And 50 was, when 50 really started blowing up, is when you started to see the end of boom bap, gangster rap turn more into bling rap, right?
Exactly.
Hot Boys and Juvenile and Lil Wayne.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And so it was more about like, rather being like, because back then it was all about being in the streets and drug dealing and, you know, gang life and stuff like that. Bling rap was all about the diamonds and the cars and the mansions and what it's like to actually become famous and stuff like that. And that music itself is more for like the club, you know? And so 50 knows like, hey, if I'm gonna be making like music for the club, there's gonna be females there. So I gotta have more rhythm with it. I gotta have more melodies with it. So I would agree with that too. I don't know, like, I don't know if I would say 50 was as big. Well, I don't know. I would say that 50 was massive, but I don't know if he was as big as Wayne.
Wow, that's crazy.
I mean, he went diamond, and that was back when he was doing like a mil first week.
Yeah, no, don't get me wrong. I think as like commercially successful, I think 50 is in the top 5 without a doubt. Like, I don't get me wrong. I think that, like, if we're talking about like different demographics of people and we're talking about different kinds of people, right? I think 50 has more of an impact for people more on the West Coast than he did with people more on the East Coast than he did with people on the West Coast.
Wait, was 50 also the first ones to make us care about album sales?
To what?
To make us care about album, or really take a closer look at album sales?
I don't know. Like, I would be lying. I personally don't really know, but I do know that him and Kanye had a huge beef about that.
Exactly, which Kanye won.
Yeah, which Kanye won. So it could be. No, you know what? You actually might be right. I think 50 kind of was the first one to make album sales and numbers, like, because we all know 50 was beefing with everybody, because that's how 50 came up.
And that's what I was saying, because if you're taking him and then you're talking about Murder Inc., you're talking about G Unit, and then you're talking Dre, and then you're talking Eminem, and then him bringing the game in, it was a little West Coast thing. So it was like, I think he was a part of every dynamic. And then, plus his beefs. And then, it was just a lot with Suge, and then, him being in the street, but also having, entertainment beef. So it was like, I feel like he birthed a lot of people, just like Wayne did, and just like I would also throw Drake in there as well, because back then it was CDs. You know what I'm saying? It was just straight CDs, no downloading, no none of that. It was just,
so you had to go to the store and buy it.
Exactly. So I'm like, if I'm thinking of that, and then a mil first week, it's kind of crazy to me. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, no, with 110%. And there also weren't like merch packages back then and stuff like that either. And yeah, no, 110%. Now that you brought something up though, like, I would probably agree with you that, okay, yeah, 50 was big as Wayne. So I was wrong to say that earlier, but they're big in different ways. I think, you know what I'm saying? Like, Wayne was bigger more musically, and I think he was more influential to upcoming artists musically. But I think 50 really incorporates the other side of being a rapper.
I think 50 put people on, and like Wayne kind of gave people the formula type of thing. Like, 50 kind of put people under his wing, while Wayne just kind of did things that influenced others.
Yeah. And then you can also say that Wayne just did exactly what 50 did later on with YNCMB, right?
But he did it better, because 50 burnt a lot of bridges to where it's like he hurt New York to the point where nobody wanted to work together.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, a lot of people say that Ebro, right? Yeah, Ebro. Ebro. Yep. And for years they always had a beef, where they were always trying to say, Ebro was saying 50 is the one that killed the scene in New York, and then 50 always saying that Ebro is the one that killed the scene in New York. But I think 50 really, like, because if you're gonna be a rapper, you can't just be like a musical artist. Like, if you want to be Keith Urban, like, you can just be Keith Urban because you just make good music. But like, if you want to be like a Lil Wayne, like, you gotta, like, or a Drake or whatever, then you gotta make also good music, but you also have to have a personality. And I think 50 really set that tone. And in order for you to get to the next level, you have to bring something other than just music to the table if you still want to have people keep paying attention to you, if that makes sense. And he did a lot of that through his beefs.
Yeah, would you say that 50 had more of a cultural impact and Wayne had more of a musical impact?
Yeah, I would probably say that. Yeah, I would probably say that.
My next question was gonna be, who had the highest peak in rap? Like
50 or Wayne? Ooh.
No, I'm saying just like any artist all time.
Oh, any artist?
Yeah, who had the highest peak?
The highest peak. Well, that's a kind of a tricky question, because it's like, I'm 24 years old, so there's a lot of artists that were massive, and I wasn't even born yet. You know, like Pac, I wasn't even alive the same time that Pac was alive. You know what I mean? So it's like, I there's some artists that I wasn't physically there to experience just how famous they were, but just within my lifetime and just taking consideration others, um, like the highest peak as a rapper, right? Like overall, I would probably say before I would probably say Wayne. To be honest with you, I think Wayne probably.
I haven't heard that yet.
Oh, I would say either. I'll say either Jay-Z, 50, Wayne, Kanye for a really short while.
Okay.
And if I'm gonna keep it conservative, Drake. Those are probably the artists that I think to my head that have had like the like. If I'm being honest, I think Drake out of all of them is probably like I think Drake is at a level where like Drake is not just only the biggest rapper in the world, but he's arguably the biggest artist in the world. There's only a very few other artists that even come close to him when it comes to numbers and stuff like that, you know?
Adele smoked him in sales.
Yeah. And she dropped her album. Yeah, and I was gonna bring up Adele, like Adele, Taylor Swift, like those are artists that I can think of that can like go toe to toe with Drake, if not just wash him out of the water, like he's just dog shit and stuff like that. But like, but he's just like he's in a like, my point being is like Drake doesn't have to worry about other rappers. When other rappers drop, they have to pay attention to when Drake drops because they don't want to drop when Drake drops because he's gonna take everything away from them. Right?
I mean, there's only one person that I think when it comes to Kendrick, that's his kryptonite.
Kendrick? Ooh.
That's Drake's kryptonite.
When you say kryptonite, like what are you referring to? Like at peak or like as far as the most popular goes?
Number?
If they drop on the same day,
okay.
Like it's not. I don't think it's not gonna hurt him. Like anybody else, yeah. Like even a J. Cole, not gonna lie, and even I do love J. Cole, but when it comes to a Kendrick Lamar, like it's not hurting him in any way.
Right.
It's gonna take away sales from them both, though.
It's
gonna take away sales from them both. If they both drop on the same date, like half the people go to one and the other instead of getting your maximum. You know what I mean?
But he won't hurt. He won't be hurting off that though.
No, he won't be hurting. It will still be close. Yeah.
Yeah, they would still do massive numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what Kendrick's biggest first week is. Because I think Drake's biggest first week was like over 800,000. Like almost.
Yeah. Wow, 800,000. That's crazy. That's Adele right there.
No, Adele. I think for her album that she did a few years ago, she did like over like 2 million first week or something like that. Yeah. Adele does Adele and Taylor Swift do like insane numbers. Mm-hmm. But my point being is like unless you have a few exceptions like you said, Kendrick Lamar or maybe even a J. Cole or maybe even a Travis Scott. Well, not now, but Travis Scott just like a few months ago. Then yeah, you could argue if those are like Drake may have to keep them on their radar and stuff like that, but he knows that anytime he drops, he's going to flood the market with his music. He's in a realm where you know there's always like different genres, and there's always going to be an artist that's at the top of that genre, and then they have to compete in a separate forum where it's just the biggest artist in the world. And I think Drake is in that forum where he doesn't have to worry about the rest of the rappers. He just has to worry about other massive artists from other genres, if that makes sense.
But he doesn't have a classic album.
Yeah, he does.
What?
Take Care.
I would say Take Care is probably his closest.
I would say
classic.
I would say it's a classic. Yeah, I would say that's a classic.
No
and that's not even my favorite album from him.
No skips from start to finish.
He wants that to be a classic, man.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah. Well, yeah, I would probably say so. Yeah, I'd probably say so. I would put money on that, but that the majority of people majority of rap fans would consider that.
Want to be a classic, so that's the closest one to like, okay, we'll just go down in the classic.
But that's what I'm saying, because I think that's like when there's an asterisk next to his name, because when I'm thinking classics, I'm thinking Blueprint, I'm thinking Forest Hill Drive, I'm thinking Illmatic, I'm thinking
classic. Yeah, debatable classic.
Like, come on, if you throw what is it called? Take Care, like on, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
I
Well,
don't know.
how did this get in here? Like,
well, no, like
Back-
I think a lot of people consider Take Care to be a classic because not only did it like cement him in the mainstream, but I also think it was just that's when, because you guys got to remember, before then, like rap was not how it is now. Like now you can be emotional and now you can be, you know, you can talk about your feelings and you can talk about women and you can simp and stuff like that. Before Take Care, you couldn't do that as a rapper. You
no.
couldn't do that.
because Drake, including myself, he took a lot of ridicule, the backlash. For man, he's trying to make us cry, he's trying to get us soft, trying to get us in our
Yeah.
feelings. Like rappers don't do that. He took a lot of backlash and ridicule, and now today it happens on the regular.
All the time. There's there's rappers now that built their entire career off of just the notion that you can be emotional with your music.
Rod Wave, I guess.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, Rod Wave would be a huge one of that. You know what I
Yes.
mean? I would even say, and you may hate me for this, but I would even say Young Boy. Like
Yes.
yeah, a lot of Young Boy's music is a lot of it's emotional.
Before he hit 20, like he went through a lot of pain.
Yeah, bro has like, I think he has like 11, 13 kids, and he's like
Seriously.
yeah. You know, like and young boy hasn't had like the easiest life. Melly was like that too. A lot of Melly's music was, a lot of it was emotional. So it's like, I think that's why people would consider Take Care to be a classical album, because it really changed the paradigm as to what we accept as a rapper and what we're willing to take, and what it opened up a new avenue. Okay, like, okay, we're willing to do this, you know.
I think Drake has a lot of classic singles, but not a classic project in its entirety. I think
Yeah.
you take songs off, Take Care, like okay, like, I'll go back and listen to this. But like you sit down, listen to the whole thing, you're gonna be like, nah, it's not a classic.
Yeah, like all skips and everything like that. Yeah, I could see that. Um, yeah, from my understanding, from what I'm hearing, is like he just doesn't have like a solid, no doubt classic album. Yeah, and I would agree with that. And the funny thing is too is that Views was supposed to be that album. If you guys remember,
Yup.
2016,
Yup.
Views was supposed to be that album, and Views was not even close to that album.
No.
It wasn't even close. If it's not going to be Views, maybe even Scorpion. We could say maybe Scorpion could be that.
What about Nothing Was the Same? I thought that came sort of close.
Yeah, that was pretty close. I was actually going to say that too. Nothing Was the Same was a really good one. I don't know if people would consider it to be a classic, but to be like a really good album, like rap R&B album, I think a lot of people would consider that, but I just don't know about it to be considered a classic. It may be one of those things where we just have to just give it some time, and then in retrospect and in hindsight, we reevaluate it and we see how much is done since then. But if I were to put money on it, I would probably say either Take Care or maybe Scorpion to be the closest thing for a classical album for him.
Album of the year, 2021.
Ooh. Did 25 come out this year? Did you hear, bro? 25?
It did. Oh my! Don't even get me started.
Yeah. I would probably say 25 for me, because when that shit dropped, I was bumping that shit like 24/7. Yeah, I would probably say for me, just from what I wanted from G Herbo, from what I wanted, because you listen to Swervin', you listen to Still Swervin', and you listen to his other projects. I love those projects, but there was always something missing. There was always something that I kind of just wanted from G Herbo. And when I listened to 25, I was like, okay, like
I'm shocked. I'm shocked you said that, because I never thought I'd ever hear that.
Really?
Yeah, like I love G Herbo, man. I bump him religiously. I don't speak about him often, but I think he's like on my sleeper. And I love 25 from start to finish.
Yeah.
I might have to give it to Nas with King's Disease too.
Disease. I think that was also Grammy nominated too, if I'm not mistaken.
He won. He won.
He won. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Oh, Baby Keem.
I hear a lot about Tyler the Creator's joint too.
Oh, that one is a really good one.
J. Cole's joint too.
Oh, I'm sorry.
J. Cole album.
Oh yeah, that was a good one.
That was a classic album.
Well, yeah. But I will say this though. My thing about when it comes to J. Cole, like albums and stuff like that, he can drop whenever he wants, which is fine. And he does fantastic numbers, and it's like the bee's knees, lemon squeeze for like the next like 2 weeks. But then I kind of like, people kind of forget, like he dropped an album like a few months later. Like, you know what I mean? Like in my like, you know what I mean? Like that's just kind of my thing. So that's why I wouldn't really consider like best album of the year. I mean, like artistically and stuff like that, musically, it definitely would be up there. But if we're talking like impact and like how people are going to resonate with it, you know, there could be
Impact
an
is
argument to be
the,
made.
the number one calling card when like debating whether or not music is decent or not. Like impact and influence.
I'm sorry, can you say that one more time?
Impact and influence seem to be like your largest thing that you focus on when you talk about music.
Yeah, because the thing is that music is so subjective. So it's like so many different people can take it so many different ways.
Right.
But when you have something where you get like a relative response from it, when it's in that space where anybody can take it any type of way, that means something, right? Because it means that more people are getting on board than rather than being polarized or, you know, going at each other for it. And I also think that it kind of spreads, like, you know, when there's a really good artist or there's a really good track or there's a really good, you know, project or album or mixtape or LP or EP or whatever the jazz may be, it really like it kind of just like bleeds down into the soil, and then all the other artists start picking up on that, and it starts to influence their music, and their music starts to change, and then everything starts, you know, it's always just constantly changing and all that jazz. So that's why I kind of take an emphasis to that, because it's just it affects everything else.
It can't be ignored. Where like you can take music in so many different directions, but impact and influence, like that's kind of solidifies you and is here to stay, kind of thing.
Yeah, but we also got, again, like take in consideration numbers, right? Like, you know, people, again, for how subjective music is, like numbers really do speak numbers, right? Like they really, like, they speak volumes. Like it's just like, you know, it's a testament to how much people like your music and how much they're willing to spend money on your music and go to your shows and buy your tickets and buy your merch and stuff like that. So I also take in consideration to that as well. But yeah, impact and influence is a massive factor for me.
So G Herbo was your album of the year?
Yeah, I really like that one. Because like when you listen to an album, right? Like one, like if you listen to an album for the first time, like how often do you find yourself skipping, right? How often do you like you listen to it and like you're only like 30 seconds in and you kind of find it boring and you want to skip it, but you have to fight yourself not to, because you're like, okay, well, maybe it might get better. You know what I mean? But then you're just like, you know, screw it, let's just go to the next one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So how often do you find yourself skipping it? And then on top of that, like how often do you find yourself going back to certain tracks, or how often do you find yourself listening to the album all the way through? So for me, it was like, if I look back in hindsight throughout this year, if there was a project that I found myself not really skipping and I found myself going back to certain tracks or just listening it through all the way, 25 was the one for me. And there's other projects too, but I think that one was the most religiously played one from my playlist and stuff like that.
Would you agree that Lil Baby is the hottest rapper out right now?
Lil Baby? Yeah. What was his album again? My Turn?
Yeah.
My Turn. That did really good. That did really good critically, and also did really good commercially.
The deluxe as well.
Yeah, really, really good. And if you guys remember, like back in like 2018, 2019, it was Baby, it was Lil Baby, Gunna, and Thug, right? And it was kind of that trio a little bit. But obviously Thug's on top because he's the one that brought them up. And it was like Gunna and Baby, and they were together. And Gunna has had fantastic success, and he's been a superstar in his own right. But it's clear to see that Lil Baby has taken a completely different gear to superstardom, and his stuff with Little Durk has been absolutely fantastic.
Yep.
And
pretty well too.
Yeah, I would say like overall, like from different demographics, different kinds of people, you know, different genders, ethnicities, religions, stuff like that, ages, you know, I think Lil Baby all around the board is probably the biggest rapper. But I would say within like the hip hop community, I may argue that Cardi would probably be the biggest rapper.
Playboy?
Yeah.
That's interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah.
What makes you say that?
Cardi appeals to a certain demographic, like Trippie Redd, like what's that little one with the red hair, the fake Judah, Mario
Oh,
Judah.
Mario Judah.
Yeah, like, the Uzis, like, the white
Yeah.
boys, white girls.
Yeah, and I get what you're saying. It's like he appears more to the like white suburban demographic. Like, yeah, and that I agree with that 110%. But I'm only saying that like to answer your question as to like why I would probably say Cardi's probably the biggest one is because Cardi's the biggest artist on TikTok, and TikTok's the biggest platform right now. So it's like every meme, every video, like everything either has Ye or has Cardi. And for the most part, it's mostly Cardi. And especially with him dropping Whole Lot of Red like a year later or a year before, and we're still talking about it. Like it's still like a debate, and people are still, it's still in people's minds and stuff like that.
Whole Lot of Red?
Whole Lot of Red, yeah.
I haven't heard nothing good about Whole Lot of Red at all.
Really?
That album, I was so disgusted by that album. Like I literally stayed up for it and listened it from start to finish, and it was like, we waited for this, because I thought it was gonna be like Die Lit, because to me Die Lit is a classic album.
Oh yeah, 100%. Oh yeah, Die Lit's a classic.
And then when he came with that, I was so disappointed. And then Kanye produced it.
Yeah, there's a lot of Kanye. There's a lot of Filthy on there. There's also another producer on there. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. But I think, like, when I first listened to Whole Lot of Red, I agree. Like, I was laying in bed, and I remember I woke up in the middle of the night because it was like Christmas morning, whatever. I had to go like take a piss, whatever. And I remember like, oh yeah, shit, Whole Lot of Red dropped. Like I've been waiting like 2 years for this shit. And I played it, and I was laying in my bed, and I was like grabbing like my like my bed and stuff like that. And I was like, yo, this is kind of like little fucked, you know what I mean? But then I like for how much of a classic album Die Lit is, I remember thinking this to myself. We all love Die Lit now, and we all can consider a classic, even though by definition it wasn't a classic. Because if you remember when Die Lit dropped, it had mixed reviews. Like a lot of people did not like Die Lit. He didn't announce it. There was no promotion for it. He just dropped it, and it didn't get a good initial response. But over the next few months, it really started building up, and now people absolutely love that album. So I remember thinking that to myself with Whole Lot of Red, and I remember thinking that to myself to the lead up to Whole Lot of Red when he announced it. I was like, I have a feeling that it's most likely not going to have a good like response, but I do know over time people may have the perception of liking it more because of how they responded to Die Lit. And that's exactly what happened. And the more that I listened to Whole Lot of Red, I was like, yo, I get what he's doing. Like, I get the vibe. And the most important aspect for me was I love the fact that he wasn't staying in his comfort zone. He was willing to do something different. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree.
So, if you could listen to 5 albums for the rest of your life, what would it be?
5 albums for the rest of my life. Shoot, I don't even know. I've never even thought about that. Would have to be something from Wayne. There would have to be something from DMX. There would have to be something from, like, we're only talking about like rap albums and stuff like that.
I was gonna say rap, but you listen to so much music, so I mean it would be unfair.
I'd probably put some trance in there because I really did like trance, and I really like trance now. I would probably put some underground in there. I'd probably put some Chief Keef in there. Probably put some Blade in there. Maybe some Little Peep in there. Some Young Boy. But I to be honest with you, I'd be lying. I can't give you 5 albums. There's no way. I can't. There's no way. I can't even give you like specific albums. There's just no way.
Got you.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Yeah, it's tough. There's just so much. Even for how much I love the album, it would probably get old for me after a while. So I don't really know.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I think is the most overrated in the game right now.
The most overrated? Ooh. The most overrated. I don't know, because that's like it's hard to answer that question because it's like, what does it mean to be overrated? You know what I mean? Like if you are at a level where all 4 of us in this Zoom for the first time speaking to each other, we know who this artist is. Like that's a testament to something, right? That means something. Like you at some point still have to have a level of talent, and you still have to have a certain level of influence and inspiration where people still care about you. I wouldn't really.
I'll go first. Polo G.
Oh yeah, Polo G would be a good one. Yeah, yeah, Polo G would be one. Roddy Ricch would be one, I think.
Ooh, Rowdy? Well, I like Rowdy.
Yeah, well, like he's like okay, and that's what I'm saying. Like that's why it's so hard to answer that question initially, because it's like,
what's your reasoning behind that?
Well, it's just like I don't know. They're not bad artists.
I like the guy.
That's it. You know, just no. Well, it's like okay, right? Like they're not bad artists by any stretch of the imagination, right? It's like what I was saying earlier. In order for you to be at a level where all of us know who you are, and everybody that I know knows who you are, and everybody that you know knows who he is, and all that stuff, you have to have a certain level of talent. You know, you don't just wake up and just be that famous and that successful. But when it comes to like Roddy, and when it comes to like Polo G, and like Lil Tay J's another one too. Like them are just they're just kind of just too similar to me. Their styles are too similar to me. Their topic materials is too similar to me. Their melodies or flows. I don't really see that much substance when it comes. Like I don't really like. I don't know. Like for how big and successful they are now, I don't really see what has Roddy really done since the box, right?
Well,
I don't know if Lil TJ even has like a solid project yet that we could all look at and be like, oh, that's
what? Excuse me for being antisocial.
Well, that's a pretty good one, but
that's what the box.
I'm just trying to think of like across all demographics of people, right? Like thinking outside of my personal circle, and just thinking outside of that circle, outside of that, like just overall.
I think Young Boy.
Yours is Young Boy.
Young Boy. Oh my god. He's so ass. Like
a large following too. Large following.
For no reason.
The streams he got is outlandish, bro.
You guys would both say that Young Boy is overrated for you guys.
Yeah. Yes. Trash. Oh my god.
I don't listen to him enough to call him trash, but definitely overrated.
What is it about it? Like just when you say trash, like what comes to mind?
I hate rappers like him and Rod Wave that whine in their music. Like that singing rap bullshit is annoying. Anybody that sings and raps, I'm sick and tired of it because that's all we hear. Like Young Boy talks about the same shit, the same pain, the same guns. How much pain? Like, bro, what?
Well, I think that's what's attractive for his audiences, because if you look at it, like a lot of people that like Rod Wave, and you look at a lot of people that like Young Boy, it's music for that personal demographic. But I wouldn't say they're necessarily overrated, but I will say that they have what I would call the Boozy effect, right? Or the Boosie effect, where it's like you're really big and you're really massive in a certain region because your music connects directly with that region. But like you can't expand outside that demographic. Like you can't expand into other regions because your music is so pointed at that one specific target audience that it's alienated the other type of demographics that you can. Like Young Boy can never tour in Arizona. Young Boy can never tour in Utah or you know Colorado or anything like that. Young Boy would never do good numbers here. No, he would never do. You know, if Young Boy, he wouldn't be. But if Young Boy was in Louisiana, if he was in Atlanta, if he was in Texas, you know, if he was in the Carolinas, you would do fantastic. You know, because it's for that specific audience. Where for other regions, you know, it doesn't really necessarily translate. That's why someone like Drake is at Drake and Kanye are at the level that they're at, because their music is able to, you know, jump over boundaries. You know, it's able to touch other different types of people rather than just one specific target audience.
Facts.
Yeah, like nothing in particular about Young Boy really like stands out. I think that's kind of the thing that we're all kind of getting at. The artists that we name, nothing truly about them really stands out to us. Young Boy's flow, lyricism, punchlines, like substance. I mean, maybe substance and storytelling, but
yeah,
story that I can really, you know, I'm not really much of a gun shooter myself, so
and neither am I.
probably doesn't resonate with me as much, so that's probably why it doesn't. Polo G, I just think he's mediocre in just about every category, so that's why I say he's overrated. But yet,
Well, like, look at his album that he just dropped just recently, like Hall of Fame 2.0. Like, it's it really is a 2.0 of his original Hall of Fame. Like that, there's no better description just from the bits and pieces that I heard from it. Like, you know, if you talk to people that listen to it all the way through, they'll tell you the same exact thing, because that's like what you said about Polo G. What can you really take away? I think what people can take away from Youngboy is I think his personality is so directly connected to his music, like for how violent and just like, you know, like if you were to talk to Youngboy, I think you would get the same Youngboy that you would get from his music.
authenticity,
Huh?
believability.
Yeah, exactly. And also I think another aspect to why people also like him too is I do think he has a good range. I think he has good versatile aspects that a lot of rappers don't typically have. And I think that's why he stands out from his peers, because there's a lot of artists within his region that make the same exact music that he does. But he's able to incorporate so many different, you know, styles and with just one track or two tracks or just a project, where he was able to build himself that diehard fan base, you know.
I went to jail too, which I think helped a lot.
Yeah, and that's kind of the crazy thing too. It's like when you're a rapper and you go to jail, one or two things are going to happen. Either you're going to blow up or you're going to completely fall off. And I think it's always better to be out of jail, because you can record, you can go into the studio, you can be out in the normal world and just live a normal life. But you know, Youngboy and Kodak are really one of the two rappers that I can think of my top of my head that can constantly go in and out of prison, and they're still gonna have a massive fan base waiting for them. Usually, after a while, people kind of die off a little bit, and you know, you look at like artists like Bobby Shmurda, for example. Like, I don't know, like, you know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong, like I wasn't expecting 2014 Bobby, but it's just like the Bobby that we have now. It's like
crazy
trash.
Yeah, I'm sure I can speak for the group of us, like a lot of us, like he has kind of been like a disappointment since he's gotten out.
I think, but he was out for like 7 years. Like when Kodak and Youngboy, they had like cups of coffee in jail. You feel me? So like it was much easier for them to adapt. 7 years is a long time to like you can easily fall out of touch.
Oh yeah, dude, and I don't blame for him. Like, you know, you're literally in prison for 7 years, right? Like that, you're a completely different world. The world that he was in back in 2014, 2015 is completely different than it is now.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, the style's different, the music's different. Like I remember listening to, you know, Shmurda when I was like a sophomore in high school, and now, you know, I'm 24 years old and he just now got out of prison. Like that's a long time. You know, like how do you stay on top of that? That's hard. Even Wayne, I don't think, like, Wayne was never the same after he got out of prison back in the early 2010s, like a few years ago. Wayne was never the same, right? I think a huge reason as to why Drake was able to take that position was because Wayne was behind bars. Wayne wasn't able to perform. Wayne wasn't able to record. Wayne wasn't able, or at least record as much as he wanted to. Like when you're in prison, you're not there. You're absent. So if you're not there, then someone's going to take your spot. Right, and you're not able to keep your finger on the pulse and see what people like and what's going on and what's the move and how you, like, you know. And when you're gone, is just when you get out is a completely different world, and people will, especially for how fast rap is, people are just going to consider you to be old news, you know. So you don't want to constantly go in and out.
Drake had Wayne's cosign too, which probably helped out a lot.
Oh yeah. And I don't necessarily think Wayne ever even had a problem with Drake taking that position, because from my understanding, from listening to Wayne interviews and listening to Drake interviews and just people who know them, it's like Wayne really invested a lot into Drake and Nicki, you know. And I think if there's one specific thing that Wayne has done that no artist has done, and we kind of touched on it earlier, was that Wayne really put people on. Like, and that's testament to his legacy, because not only was he the biggest rapper in the world, but he's also one that formulated the careers for later down the line the biggest rapper in the world, and also the biggest female rapper in the world. Like
Yes,
Drake
sir.
and Nicki Minaj are not going to be Drake and Nicki Minaj that we know of today if it was not for Wayne. I don't think I can think of any other rapper that has done that, at least off the top of my head, right?
That's a very good point. Yeah.
Maybe 50 in the game, but that wasn't like a transition, like a peaceful transition of power. Like they had their own beef and everything like that. And I mean, you could say at one point the game may have been the biggest rapper in the world, but it was a very short stint. But you know, Nicki's been the biggest female rapper in the world for over 10 years. Drake has been the biggest rapper in the world for over 10 years, and that's all a testament to Wayne.
Yeah.
Who do you think is most underrated?
The most underrated, I'd probably say Polo G, Lil TJ, Roddy, and stuff like that. Overall, I'd probably say Polo G would probably be, for me personally. I don't know.
No.
Underrated.
I'm sorry.
Underrated.
Underrated. Oh, underrated. Sorry. Underrated. I was gonna say Dirk, but Dirk is now starting to get his bones, so that's good. Chief has what he has going. Chief is the only, he can only blame himself for where he's at. Blast is really underrated, I'd probably say.
BLX.
Yeah, like BLXST. Blast is really.
Oh, I thought it was Blix.
Yeah, same.
Well, I've always heard it as Blast. Really, that's crazy. I've always heard it as Blast. Everyone around me is always referred to as Blast.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
No,
But
he's amazing.
It's like a regional thing. I don't know.
He's amazing.
Yeah, he's really good. Benny the Butcher, I think, also is an artist that is really underrated. Because also, like, when I speak to like other engineers or other, you know, people like from the engineering side and stuff like that, and just like from the song making side, like they do projects outside of just rap. For some reason his name comes up a lot when it comes to just people who are interested in rap that don't see rap as their priority genre.
Mm-hmm.
So he comes up a lot. Big Kurt comes up a lot as well, I would probably say. Currency's one, I think, is
Currency.
Yeah, he would probably be one that I would say is underrated. And that's the thing, dude. Like for how many rappers there are, like the top is just so small. Like just only like very few people could.
No, for real.
Be there.
Blast and Medium are mid tier, man. Like.
Yeah, and there's different tiers with this shit. Like there really is, right? Yeah. I've always felt like there's always been a underground scene, a transitional scene, and a mainstream. And some artists are just better with being in the underground scene. Some artists are just better in being the transitional scene, and some artists are just better at being in the mainstream.
What about Larry? You know who Larry June is?
Yeah, Larry June. Yeah, he would probably be one too. A lot of people. That's the thing. Like a lot of people within the rap community love Larry June. I don't think I've ever met. Yeah, I don't think I've ever met anybody who doesn't like Larry June or doesn't listen to Larry June. But when you go outside the rap community, then there's not that many people who may be aware. I think Joey Badass is a huge one that's underrated.
Yes.
Yeah, Joey Badass for sure is really underrated. I'm sorry?
A lot of other artists too, or am I bugging?
Sorry, what?
But does he write for a lot of other artists too?
Joey Badass?
Yeah.
Yeah, he ghostwrites. There was this one song that he ghostwrited that blew up a few years ago. That was really big. It was like his number one hit. That
was it Rockstar?
I think it was Rocks, like with Post Malone.
Yeah, I believe.
Yeah, I think he has credits on that. I think he ghostwrited for that. Yeah, a lot of artists, from my understanding, a lot of them do like a lot of ghostwriting and songwriting behind the scenes. For some artists, that's like the make of their money. Like that's how they make the majority of their money. But I Joey Badass for sure is one of them. And I think for Joey, it's just mostly off the fact that his particular style is just not what is popular right now, like the boom bap lyrical style.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think he's
lyrical. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, and there could be a time where I think lyricism's coming back. Like, you know, it's not like how it was a few years ago where you could be like a Little Pump or a Smoke Perp or, you know, whatever, and just say like a Young Gravy or whatever, and just say like just random shit and be big. Like now people are kind of over that, where like you actually have to have like good topic material and you have to have good metaphors and analogies and literary devices to be a good rapper.
I don't see what you're saying. Is like you don't necessarily have to have like hard, like heavy bars. Like you don't have to be punch heavy like a Fab, but like you have to be saying something now. Like
Yeah, exactly. Like people are not going to just listen to just random bullshit like how they did just a few years ago. Like people are going to listen to it, and they may be focused more on the vibe and the feel of it, but they're still going to pay attention to like what you're saying. And like, you know, for example, if you listen to like an artist like, you know, Cardi or Yeet or whatever, or what you like, or Cyber or Sofago and artists like that, then it's like you could still consider them to be like mumble rappers. But like if you really listen to their lyrics or you look up their lyrics, like a lot of it's poetry. Like a lot of it still has like a point behind it. They still are trying to send a message. They're still trying to at least have you think in some capacity.
Yeah, I like artists like Sofago. I like, but that's the type of melodic shit that I like.
Yeah,
honestly, they're not crying their shit. You know what I'm saying? Like
right.
they talking about violence in a melodic way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. And it's just catchy and it's rhythmic.
Exactly.
I think one artist that I think right now, who ironically used to be like one of the biggest rappers in the world, but right now is really underrated, is Lil Yachty. I think Lil Yachty's work right now is 110 times better than it was just you know, like when he was at his peak just a few years ago. You know what I mean? So I think Yachty right now, I think he's underrated.
the thing I like about Yachty is that he'll give a lot of rappers who aren't as known and like he'll jump on the track with them. I really like that.
Yeah. And Uzi's like that too, where they don't really.
Chances like that too.
Yeah, they're not really nitpicky about. Well, they're obviously nitpicky. Like they're not gonna like hop on a track with someone who they think is trash. But like if they think, but to the contrary, like if they think that you are like legitimately a good artist, like you know, you can make good music, then they're gonna hop on your music. And you know, Draft Day, Baby Cody, there's like a lot of artists where Yachty has, you know, worked with, whereas like otherwise a lot of people would even know who they are. So
real Rumble. If you could go to 5 concerts of all time, what would they be?
Ooh. Okay, well, 2 of them. Okay, one would have to be an A$AP Rocky concert because I've been to an A$AP Rocky concert and that shit was gas. A Chief Keef concert, which I've been to, which was gas. Cardi and Uzi was gas too. Trippy is actually really good too. But if these are artists like I would want to go to, I've seen Ye live, but it's Ye. Like I don't. That's not really like. I love Ye's music, but like for a concert experience, I don't know. I would want to go to a Travis Scott one for sure. Even with what happened.
I told my friend that where it's like the fact that some people unfortunately passed away, I think that's gonna actually encourage more people to come.
Yeah, I could see that.
It's so nice. It's so good that someone died. Like that's how people are gonna think, bro. You're sideways.
Yeah, it's like and that's the thing about music too, is especially with that type of like subculture and stuff like that, is gonna be more attractive to people. But I think 110%, you know, that's not gonna stop me, and that's not gonna stop a lot of people I know to go see Travis Scott. The unfortunate thing about his situation was it's Travis Scott. I think if it was like anybody else, they wouldn't get as much flack for it. Mm-hmm. But because Travis has a history of being like neglectful when it comes to his live shows, mm-hmm. and being violent and not listening to the rules and stuff like that, I think it just finally caught up.
Large scene.
I'm sorry?
He encourages a large scene. Like he encourages chaos, basically.
Yeah, exactly. But
that's what fans love.
And then that exactly, and that's why people like going to Travis Scott's concerts, because like there's always been like an atmosphere of like danger to it. Like there's always going to be that atmosphere. From I've never seen him live, but I know a lot of people that have, and that was always the number one thing that they took back from Travis Scott shows. So it's like there's always kind of like a brush with death, right? You always have people jump off shit. People are mosh pitting. People are punching each other. You know, it's like it's kind of like a violent like scene. You know,
it's memorable.
Yeah, it's memorable, and he's a live artist. Like that's what Travis Scott is. Like he makes music for live experiences. You know, Sheck West is an artist that I could think of where, you know, like when Sheck West dropped his album back in like 2018, Mud Boy, a lot of people didn't like it, but I loved it because for me it was like, well, his album's not an album that you're supposed to like sit down and listen to. It's an album that you're supposed to be at a live venue hearing it like on a PA system and him performing, you know. And
You gotta listen to Sheck West Max Volume. Like,
oh yeah, I haven't heard that one, but there's like a lot of there's a lot of shit from Sheck West from like back in the day that I really want to dip my toes into. And also a lot of Digital Nas too. Digital Nas would also be another artist that I would say that is underrated as well.
got you. Well, that's all I got for you.